Discussing the top tracks from the artists we love. Top 5s with Kxvu.
What's happening, people? We're back here once again on CubCamTV for this, another edition of Top 5s. Now, as you can see, the format's looking slightly differently. We are back in the cave, and this is because the Trickstar radio studio is currently under a bit of renovation, hence me having a bit of a break over that Christmas period. Now, rather than not putting any videos together and just kind of stopping with the entirety of the content, I thought, you know what, let's keep the channel ticking over and do things a little bit differently over this month. So what we're going to be doing is jumping into a special episode of Top 5s as we do another album breakdown, basically bringing you the top 5 tracks off a selected project from the last few months. Now, today, we're getting into an artist who is very, very popular on the channel, an artist who's been really, really well received whenever we've done reaction videos, and that, of course, is Davido. We're going to be breaking down the top 5 tracks off A Better Time, his most recent studio album, and there are some absolute corkers on there. I'm really excited to get into this one, so let's crack on. So, jumping into number 5 on today's list. Now, this was a massively charting tune. It did absolute bits over on the Afrobeat charts, and I'm pretty sure it charted in a number of different countries around the world as well. It's a track that really summarizes good symmetry from artists from different backgrounds, and it is, of course, Holy Ground, featuring the one and only Nicki Minaj. Now, this was a tune that made waves around the world, as I said before, and production-wise, it's colorful, and there's a lot of things going on, and the most important thing is there's so much percussive energy throughout. It's a real joy to listen to when you actually sit down and take it in. The overall approach is quite interesting to this one as well. The way they kind of go back and forth over the tune and the way they kind of put the lyricism forward in general, it is quite an interesting listen, and you can actually check out our full breakdown of this tune on Cub Reacts somewhere else on the channel. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. So the most interesting thing about this is why this is probably down so low in this listing, because if this was a list based on commercial success and general popularity, this would probably be at number 1. Let's be real, it's the most talked about tune from the album, and it's the highest charting tune as far as I'm aware. However, for me, this is a personal list, and there are other tunes on the album that really kind of outshone this one personally, so that's why it's still in the top 5, but it is at number 5 on today's listing.
My holy ground with me around too, brother. I call her sister too. Mama go fight, she get like 6 tattoos.
So, moving on to number 4 next on today's listing, and it goes by the name of So Crazy. Now, this was one of the more undersung tracks on the album. It was a track that didn't necessarily receive the praise that I thought it deserved as a creation. First of all, the thing about this track that really stands out to me is, again, that percussion. It's a theme we're going to be talking about a lot today because it's so important within that Afrobeat sound. Now, production-wise, obviously, that's my background. That's what I come from, and I do become a bit of a nerd when it comes to kind of talking about different processes and techniques that people are using, but this one, it's much more fast-paced in the way it's been put together, and it just makes it so interesting to listen to from the perspective of the album, because it supplies something different and something a bit more up-tempo to really get a dance into motion. Now, there are kind of shades of soca involved in this tune in the way the percussion lands, and we've got those really high-intensity rhythms kind of moving throughout, but there's also a lot more kind of stripped back elements in there as well, which is what makes it so genuinely sonically interesting to listen to from a fan's perspective such as myself. Again, it gives Davido an opportunity to really explore the more expansive side of his vocal range as well, and we do hear a genuinely emotional performance on this one from him, which is why this one sits at number 4 on today's top 5 listing.
Alright, I go hold tight. All night.
Number 3 on today's listing goes by the name of Jawa, and this one is an absolute corker. We did again review this track on the channel, so make sure if you want to get into a bit more of an in-depth breakdown of the tune bar for bar, you can go and listen to it over on Cub Reacts. However, for now, let's break this one down for the means of this top 5 listing and why it sits in number 3, because first of all, it's amazing vocally. Again, we get to hear that full expansive vocal range from Davido, an artist who, for me, has really exploded around the world. I think more so across the breadth of 2020. He was obviously a very celebrated artist in Nigeria, but I definitely feel the last couple of years especially have been his real major growth period worldwide. And I think one of the reasons for that is because of how emotional we can hear his vocal lines actually are. We can feel the kind of the influence behind them as he vocalizes. We get to hear a more sort of grainy sound of his vocal in this one as well. Instrumental wise, again, the percussion is sumptuous. We hear so many different things going on this one. The sort of use of rhythmic breaks and the idea of using the space that isn't filled up as much as the space that is filled up is a really common theme on this one. On a compositional level, it's amazing. It's so enjoyable to listen to, and it's definitely worth checking out the music video for this one because the plot line is awesome. I didn't actually get it the first time I watched it, but there were loads of comments down below that made me understand it, and now I do understand it. It's a genuinely very solid piece of work. So that's why this one sits at number 3 on today's top 5 listings for Davido'S top 5 on A Better Time.
So me say, ciao, Jawa. Look into my eyes, oh baby, Jawa.
Moving into the top 2 tunes now, this one goes by the name of Tanana, and it features Kxvu Savage. Now again, I feel this is quite an undersung track from the album. When I first heard this one, I was instantaneously hooked on it. Now, it's a little bit different from a lot of the other tracks we have heard on the project. It's much slower in the way it's been composed, and I definitely would say this is more of a lover's tune, you know? The back and forth between both artists on the tune is awesome. We hear Davido open up with a very kind of solid injection of vocal energy, and then we hear Kxvu Savage's verse, and again, it just adds this whole new dimension to the compositional value of the tune. It's an amazing way of kind of doing that call and respond motion. I'd definitely say with this one, it's a tune that you want to share a moment with someone you love, you know? It's definitely a tune you want to hear candlelight, lights down low, maybe even in a dance when you're having a special moment with someone. It's definitely one of those tunes. It's got a real kind of slow wind vibe to it, and it's definitely a tune that, well, it's definitely a tune that I want to hear out in a dance, so definitely one of those. Again, it's a great showing of Davido'S versatility on this one, and that's what an album is all about for me. Taking the listener on a journey, taking them down different paths, and that's why this one ranks so highly on today's top 5 listing. Tanana featuring Kxvu Savage.
I ain't come play. I know come shitty, baby. I know come waste time. Me, I want Tanana. Me, I want Tanana.
So we move on to number 1 on today's listing. Now, this one is a track which made absolute waves. I believe it was the first track we heard off the album as well a few months ago, and again, it was a track we did review on the channel. It goes by the name of Fem. Now, this again is showing the versatility of what Davido can do on an album project, because despite the fact it was such a instantaneously recognizable Afrobeat tune, there are so many interesting, unique elements about this one which really do take it into a different direction. Now, as far as I'm aware, Fem is a slang term in Nigeria, and it basically means shut up, and it's derived from the Yoruba language, I believe is how it is pronounced. So Davido actually put a quote out about the meaning of this track, and it says word for word, "To people talking about you because they don't understand your shine, they don't understand your grace, they don't understand why they can never be where you are or have done what you have, we say Fem." So this is a tune basically Davido kind of saying, look, I'm not a fan of the haters, and this is all they are. So basically, shut up, haters. As far as I'm aware, that's the way I can interpret it. Again, there's a lot of unusual rhythms going on for an Afrobeat tune, but it definitely still has that original sounding essence, and there is some beautiful instrumentation woven throughout this one. Those woodwind layers especially really come true. The longer you listen to it, the more normalized they become, and they just sound spectacular, start to finish. We do hear again the raspiness of Davido'S vocal on this one, which is always pleasing because we can hear the emotion behind the performance, which is something I love to hear as a listener. And overall, this is probably the most memorable track on the list, both because it was the first track we heard, and just in general, I feel this is just the most solid piece of work on the entire body. So there we go. That's why it's in number 1, and hopefully you did enjoy this listing. Let's get into it.
Oh boy, you done they do too much. Smart talk, you done they do good talk, fam.
Right then, friends, thank you for checking out this most recent top 5 listing. Obviously, it's been a little bit different doing it in this format, but I've got to say, I have really enjoyed doing it this way around. You get to see a bit of emotion in my face when I'm talking, and just in general, it's been a lot easier to kind of put it together in this format. So let us know if you did enjoy this way around of doing things, or if you preferred it in the more sort of Trickstar radio setting. We are going to be getting as much content out there as possible on the channel, so if you have any opinions on this and the formatting of this one, please do let us know in the comments down below. And of course, let us know your top 5s as well. I'm really interested to hear how this album has hit different people and how different people have taken it in, so please do leave your top 5 tracks off this album in the comments section down below, and we shall see you all next time. Peace.
Discussing the top tracks from the artists we love. Top 5s with Kxvu.